Hi everyone, this is Matt from Staffs University Technical Services. In this chapter, we'll be taking a look at the basic components of the audio setup within our Cadman TV studio, such as the basic operation of the mixing desk, setting audio levels, using the studio mics, and using the loudness monitor. We'll start by taking a brief look at the mixing desk, the Yamaha 01V96i. To boot up the desk, as well as the rest of the equipment in the audio gallery, press the rack-mounted power switch in the left-hand rack unit. It takes about 20 to 30 seconds to initialize, and then you're ready to go. The fundamental role of the sound operator is to create a pleasing blend or a mix of different audio input sources, such as lapel mics, handheld mics, PC audio, pre-recorded video content, and so on. It's important that there's always a focus within your mix, which can clearly be heard over other elements. For example, at the start of your show, you might have a presenter or two reading a welcome script with some background music. In this case, the focus or foreground sounds would be the presenter's lapel mics, and the background sound would be the music. The lapel mics shouldn't have to compete against the music, so you'd want to make sure that the channel fader that the music is playing through is lower than the mic faders. But most importantly, trust what your ears are listening to. If the music sounds too loud so you can't clearly hear the mics, then it probably is too loud, and you should turn it down using the channel faders. The general rule of thumb is to make sounds quieter in your mix before making other sounds louder. The Cadman TV studio has its own dedicated audio gallery, so the sound operator can mix their audio with their own dedicated audio monitors. These will be switched on at the same time as the mixing desk when you power up the equipment from the rack unit. There's also a program output display just to the right of the mixing desk and a larger video multi-view screen so you can see the studio cameras and other content, as well as an audio playout PC, loudness monitor, and a desktop talkback station. We'll discuss a few of these features later on. There's a few things on the desk that you'll want to check straight away to make sure you're set up properly. Within the fader mode section on the left, make sure that Home is selected, and then in the layer section, press either 1 to 16 or 17 to 32. You should avoid pressing any other buttons in these two sections because it'll lead to unexpected behaviour from the desk, as well as from other audio devices in the TV studio. Use the monitor out level control at the top right corner of the mixing desk to set the volume for the speakers, clockwise for louder and anti-clockwise for quieter. You'll notice a switch just above monitor out, labelled as monitor and 2-track in. You'll use this button from time to time to switch your speaker output between two different audio sources. With the switch up and set to monitor, you'll hear the direct audio from the mixing desk. This is great if you need to use the desk solo feature to preview any of your studio mics, but we'll talk about this later. Its downside is that you don't receive a true audio mix that reflects what your audience can hear. So to hear the true mix, press the button down to select 2-track in. So now you're monitoring the exact program output audio directly from the TC1. The audio should sound pretty much the same with the button set to monitor, but you should now be safe in the knowledge that what you hear is what your audience hears. However, with 2-track in now selected, you won't be able to solo any of the physical audio inputs for critical listening, such as the studio mics. In this video, we've looked at a basic overview of the Yamaha mixing desk and using the speakers and basic mix principles. The remaining videos in this chapter will explain how to use the desk in more detail, we'll look at some of the different audio devices available, how to set gain, and how to use the loudness monitor. In this lesson, we'll take a look at the mixing desk's channels, the use of layers, and the master fader. Each audio input device is controlled by one of 16 individually named input channels, each with its own grey sliding fader. The most basic principle with the faders is that at the lowest point, no sound will be heard from the audio device connected to that channel. Push the fader up vertically and you'll start to hear the sound from that device. Usually, when you want to hear a channel, you'll push its fader towards the 0 line, which is about 3/4 of the way up the channel position. This leaves a little bit of headroom in case you need to make the sound louder in the mix, but obviously you can make it quiet again by pushing the fader back down. To confuse things slightly, Each one of the 16 input channels can be used to set the volume of 2 different devices, and this is done with a function called layers. At the moment, we're focused on channels 1 to 16, which is called layer 1 to 16. The second layer is called 17 to 32. So essentially, we can work with up to 32 audio input channels whilst using just 16 faders. Channels 1 and 17 share a fader, as do 2 and 18, 3 and 19, and so on. To switch from one layer to the next, press the corresponding 1 to 16 or 17 to 32 layer buttons on the left side of the desk, about halfway up. If you've already set any volume fader positions for your channels, the desk remembers them when you move back to the original layer. Let's take a quick look at the audio devices that are connected to each input channel, starting with layer 1. Channels 1 to 4 are for the wireless presenter lapel mics, and 5 and 6 are for the 2 handheld radio mics, which we'll talk more about later on. 7 and 8 are for the 2 media players within the TC1, known as digital disc recorders. Channel 9 is for audio that plays from the graphics PC that's in the Vision Gallery. 10 is the dedicated sound media player in the TC1, which can be used for music playout. 11 is for any built-in sound effects within the TC1 for things like specialist video transitions that contain audio. Channels 12 and 13 are dedicated to Skype contributors, which again are routed directly to the TC1. Channel 14 is the audio from the lectern PC on the studio floor, and 15 and 16 are a stereo pair which control the audio from the Audio Gallery PC. Moving on to layer 2, we have channels 17, 18 and 19, which are connected to inputs 1, 2 and 3 on wall box 1, which is on the left side of the studio when looking from the audience seats, and 20, 21 and 22 are for inputs 7, 8 and 9 on wall box 2, which is behind the lectern on the right. These are really useful if you want to connect additional audio input devices such as mics directly inside the studio. You want to make sure that every input channel is switched on, otherwise, regardless of the fader position, you won't hear anything at all. Just simply press the on button above every channel fader. Make sure you do this for both layers. The final input channels are on the right of the desk and are labelled as Stereo 1, Stereo 2, Stereo 3 and Stereo 4. These use rotary faders instead of the slider faders we've just seen on the other input channels. Stereo 1 and 3 share the same rotary fader, as do 2 and 4. You can use the ST in button just above to switch between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Stereo 1 is the only one of these channels in use in the TV studio, so make sure it's switched on as well, but most importantly, do not touch the rotary fader. I'll repeat that again, don't touch the rotary fader. If you do, then all of the TC1's internal sounds, like the DDRs, might sound louder or quieter than what they actually do to your audience. This goes back to the monitor and 2-track in button that we discussed in the previous video. Switch to 2-track in, you're guaranteed to hear what your audience hears, but switching back to monitor and adjusting the Stereo 1 rotary fader will make those internal TC1 sounds appear to be louder or quieter than they actually are. So just leave the Stereo 1 rotary fader alone. Don't touch it. Simple. The red master fader on the right side of the desk controls the overall volume for your whole sound mix. So for you and your audience to hear anything at all, you need the master fader at its highest position and also switched on, so make sure you've checked that as well. If you're monitoring the 2-track input, then adjusting the master fader will have no impact on what you hear, but it's still best practice to leave the channel fully open, because it's also sending an audio signal to the loudest monitor. So again, make sure it's up all the way. In this lesson, we've discussed the mixing desk's channels, the use of layers, and the master fader. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the presenter kits and handheld mics. In this lesson, we'll cover how to use the presenter kits and handheld radio mics. There are 4 presenter kits that are stored in the audio gallery, and each kit includes a mic transmitter and capsule, and an in-ear monitor, earphone, and receiver for talkback. We also have 2 handheld mics which can be used by audience members. The lapel mics occupy input channels 1 to 4 on the Yamaha mixer, and the handhelds are 5 and 6. The corresponding mic receivers and talkback transmitters are stored in the right-hand studio rack. To switch them on, just activate the power distribution unit at the top of the rack and they should power on automatically. You should see the displays activate almost straight away. You'll need 2 AA batteries to power each mic transmitter or in-ear receiver belt pack. Rechargeable batteries can be found near the audio gallery PC, but I'd recommend keeping a few spares of your own. For the belt packs, disengage the 2 latching locks to reveal the battery compartment and insert the 2 AA's. To power on the mic transmitter, press the on-off button for about a second. And for the in-ear monitor receiver, turn the volume knob from the off position to the desired volume. For the handheld mics, unscrew the lower part of the body, open the battery compartment barn door, insert the 2 AA's, screw back together, and then press the red standby button at the bottom for about a second. You'll see similar information on all rack units, belt packs and handheld mic screens, such as the battery status, the operating frequency, device name, radio frequency level and audio frequency level. Each pair of transmitters and receivers should have its own unique radio frequency. If they don't, the mic or in-ear monitor won't work, or you may get interference from other transmitters or receivers that are using the same frequency. All 4 in-ear monitors use the same frequency, which is currently 622 500 MHz. This ensures that everyone wearing an in-ear monitor hears the same thing. Frequencies are set using banks and channels. In this example for Lapel Mic 1, channel 5 within bank number 1 is in use, which is the frequency 611 400 MHz. There's no reason to change the frequency on any transmitter or receiver units, but if you do by accident and they no longer match, press the Set button and then use your arrow keys to navigate to Frequency Preset and press Set again. Use the arrow keys to adjust the settings and then press Set once more to save your new settings. For the handheld mics, twist the bottom to reveal the multifunction switch. Press it in to access the menu and then push it left or right to navigate through. If you don't want to save, press the on and off or escape buttons instead. But make sure that every pair of transmitters and receivers have separate pairs of frequencies set up. Let's take a look at the lapel mics and their transmitters and receivers. Connect the mic capsule to the mic line socket at the top of the transmitter using the 3.5mm mini jack plug and screw it in so it's secure. To mute a lapel mic, slide the mute button on the top of the transmitter. The word mute will appear on both displays. Press the button once again to go back to its original state. Lapel mics are traditionally secured onto the side of a jacket pocket, but they can also be used with t-shirts, jumpers, shirts and blouses. Ideally, you want to have the mic around the height of your breastbone. Use the supplied tie clip to hold the mic capsule in place and loop the cable back on itself. These mics are omnidirectional, which means that they pick up sound from all around, regardless of what direction it's pointing in. With that in mind, I'd recommend that you have the mic capsule pointing down, away from the mouth, as this could help by avoiding plosives or popping sounds, which can occur if someone sneezes or heavily breathes through the nose and into the mic. When you're using the handheld mic, hold it about a handspan's distance from your guest or audience member, angled at about 45 degrees up to the mouth. Try not to get too close or too far away. Once you've finished using the mics, press and hold the transmitter's on and off button for a couple of seconds, and then the units will power off. Remove the batteries and put them back on charge, and then disconnect the cables for the lapel mics using the mini jack plug, and neatly pack away the cable and transmitter back in the presenter kit box. Finally, leave the handheld mics next to the Yamaha mixer. Moving on to the Sennheiser in-ear monitor system, each presenter kit has its own talkback receiver unit and single earphone. The talkback system allows the presenters to hear anyone in a technical role in the vision or audio galleries. The earphone can be connected to the 3.5mm phone socket on the top of the unit. The transparent hooked piece of tubing sits over the top of the ear, and then the earbud can be inserted into the ear. If you prefer to use your other ear, you can lightly pinch the tubing and twist the earbud 180 degrees. Make sure you use the wipes provided to clean the earbuds before and after use. Use the metal clip to secure the earphone onto clothing, such as the top of a collar or a t-shirt. We'll cover how to fully use the talkback system later on. Once you finish using the in-ear monitors, turn the volume knob back down to off, and the units will power off. Remove your batteries and put them back on charge, and disconnect the earphones using the mini jack plug, and neatly pack away the cable and receiver back in the presenter kit box. In this lesson, we've looked at how to use the 4 presenter kits and handheld radio mics. Coming up next, we'll learn how to set audio gain levels. In this lesson, we'll take a look at how to set audio gain levels. Setting the audio gain is done at the Yamaha desk, and it basically means that you're setting the amount of signal being received from any of the studio's audio inputs into the desk. So this can include the 6 studio mics, the studio floor wallbox inputs, the TC1 audio, or the audio gallery PC. We'll focus on the studio mics for this example, but the same principles can be applied to any other input devices. Let's say, for example, we have a presenter using lapel mic 1. Get your presenter to speak into the mic and then adjust the gain dial at the top of the desk for input 1, or lapel mic 1. Turn it clockwise until you see the signal LED illuminate green, and then keep going until the red peak indicator lights up. Then back off until it disappears. You can repeat this process for every mic or physical input that you're using. If you want to preview the signal as well during rehearsals, just lift the channel's fader at the bottom of the desk. This will allow you to check for any quality or interference issues. If you want to preview a channel during your live show, you'll need to solo it, so that you can isolate its audio through your audio gallery speakers. Assuming your audio device is playing or picking up sound, you'll hear its audio regardless of whether the channel's fader is up or not. But importantly, it won't interrupt your stream or recording. Just press the solo button for the channel you need to preview, and all other audio will cut out from your speakers. This is known as pre-fade listen, or PFL for short, and it basically means that you can preview a channel just before it reaches the channel's fader in the signal chain. When you're done, deactivate the channel solo function. If you've soloed multiple channels at the same time, you can quickly unsolo everything by pressing the solo clear button at the top right side of the desk. The solo feature will only work when you're listening in monitor mode, not 2-track in, so bear this in mind if you're planning to solo any input channels. In this lesson, we've discussed how to set audio gain levels. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the basic functionality of the TC Electronic Clarity M loudness monitor. In this lesson, we'll take a look at the basic functionality of the TC Electronic Clarity M loudness monitor, what it does and how to use it. The Clarity M loudness monitor is an LCD display that allows you to monitor your average audio loudness, as well as true peak audio levels, for your production's stream or broadcast in compliance with broadcasting standards. Firstly, to power on the unit, press its power switch at the bottom right corner. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds to boot up fully before it's ready to use. On the left of the screen, you'll see the loudness radar meter, and on the right, we have various audio statistics, as well as left and right output channel level meters, peak indicators, and phase analysis meters. To reset all parameters and statistics, hit the reset button at the bottom of the unit, second in from the left. Assuming you have an audio signal outputted from the sound desk, you'll see the parameters start to update straight away. The time value shown on the lower right portion of the loudness radar meter shows how long it's been since the reset button was last pressed. The loudness radar meter shows you the short-term and momentary loudness history, indicated by a real-time colour-coded graph. Blue radar levels towards the middle of the meter indicate that your output signal for your stream is too quiet, whereas orange levels towards the outside of the circle show that your levels are too loud. As an average level, you want to aim for the second largest circle on the radar meter, where the levels are peaking into the top of the green and just into the orange. You'll notice that when we make an adjustment to a channel fader on the Yamaha mixing desk, this is updated in real time on the radar meter. The more audio channels you use in your sound mix, the louder your overall levels become, so keep an eye on the radar meter throughout your broadcast. If you want to change the radar speed, turn the rotary knob at the bottom of the unit. The target duration is shown just above this dial and determines how quick the loudness radar moves around the circle in a clockwise fashion. If you can't see the loudness radar meter, press the button just to the right of reset. Pressing this button also reveals the real-time analyzer, but keep going until you see the radar meter. Moving over to the right side of the screen, you'll see the audio statistics. The main two parameters that we need to monitor here are program loudness and true peak max. Program loudness is measured in LUFS, which stands for loudness units relative to full scale. This number is really important as it shows us the average loudness level for your whole show. So if your show lasts for 30 seconds, it'll show us the average loudness over 30 seconds. If your show lasts for 3 hours, likewise, it'll show the average program loudness over 3 hours. You need to aim for a program loudness of -23 LUFS. That's what the major European broadcasters have to stick to, as outlined by the European Broadcast Union, or EBU for short. If your program loudness is -21.5, as seen here, that means that your average loudness levels are too loud. So in this case, you need to reduce the output volume of your overall sound mix. Do this simply by reducing the fader positions on the desk. But remember, this is an average level over the length of your entire show, so there's no need to make abrupt changes unless absolutely essential. So, to clarify, make sure your program loudness is -23 LUFS. For live content, the EBU allows you to deviate up to 1 LUFS either side of -23, meaning your average level could be as high as -22 and as low as -24. Remember, we're dealing in minuses, so in this case, -22 is louder than -24. True Peak Max is the single loudest True Peak audio measurement since the last time you press reset, and is measured in dBTP, or decibel true peak. As discussed earlier, for the time being we're sticking with EBU standards, which means that your true peak advisory limit is -3 decibels true peak. That basically means don't let your audio go louder than -3 dB true peak. Legally, you can go as high as -1, but it's safer to stick to -3. To power off the loudness monitor, press and hold the power button for about 3 seconds, and then press it again once more to confirm. In this lesson, we've looked at the TC Electronic Clarity M loudness monitor. This chapter has given us the opportunity to take a look at the basic components of the audio setup within our Cadman television studio, such as the basic operation of the mixing desk, setting audio levels, and using the studio mics. For more information and further learning, please see the chapter that covers the advanced components of the studio's audio setup.